Hey, I'm Eric, I'm the explorer.
I'm Phil, I'm the folklorist.
And together we are setting out across the Empire State to explore the haunts and legends of New York.
Thousands of students study at Mohawk Valley Community College in Rome, but today's campus had a very different history in the 18 and early 1900s. This land on Floyd Ave was once the Oneida County Home, a pleasant-sounding place, but a darker reality. The Old Oneida County Home was central New York's poorhouse, a final destination for paupers. A chilling 1857 state report tells of several hundred people who lived there. Not just the poor, but those labeled as lunatics, idiots, and deranged. We visit the MVCC grounds in Rome and look for clues to the history of the Old Oneida County Home.
Hey Phil, we are here in Rome to investigate the Old Oneida County Home. Now, I bet thousands of people drive down Floyd Ave and see a sign for the Old Oneida County Home and have no idea that the very interesting history of this location. Have you ever heard of it before?
Not at all. Talking to our friend at the Oneida County Historical Society, he hadn't heard of it either, so I don't know what you're on about or what that is.
Well, it turns out, I've done a little research, it turns out it is the county's poorhouse. From a very different era when if you were poor, it was almost akin to a crime. They would put you away if you couldn't pay, almost a debtor's prison. The Oneida County Courthouse today, Phil, we know it as the MVCC campus in Rome.
Really?
Yes, and there are still buildings from when this was a poorhouse that are used by students today. Let's go check this out.
Indeed.
Joe, we're investigating the Oneida County Poorhouse. We hear it's in Rome. We hear rumors that it might be the MVCC campus. What do you know about this place?
Well, when I was growing up, the Oneida County Poorhouse was in Rome, and it was located where MVCC campus is now.
Really?
So right again, Eric, you're right. Once again, you beat me to the punch on that. And when I was growing up, the man who was the director of that Oneida County Home, they call it, was a man by the name of Mr. DeLutis, who lived on 4th Street in Rome, where I grew up. And I knew his children growing up. So it's quite familiar to me.
And the buildings on campus?
The main building there is the original building.
Really?
That was there.
Really?
But it doesn't look like it did then, and the whole campus doesn't look the same. I remember as a kid going up there with my dad, riding. To go for a ride in the car then was a big deal.
Yes.
But, yes, you're right.
And I don't know if you know this, Joe, to end up at the poorhouse, it was, I don't want to say being poor was criminal, but it was very different than it is today. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, because the government didn't have all these help programs. Franklin Roosevelt's ABC programs came in and started a social welfare society that didn't exist then. And if you were poor, you're right. Many times, and prior to that, poor people were housed because there was no other place for them. And some of them were housed at the state hospital, believe it or not. And it goes back to the days in England when they had the debtors' prisons.
Right.
And interesting story about the debtors' prisons. Those in England who are in debtors' prisons, how do you pay your debt if you're in prison and you can't work? Doesn't make sense to me. But what they did, the king owed, I forget who, some money, had borrowed from a wealthy person, and he wanted to develop a colony in the New World as a buffer zone between the Indian occupied territory, what is now Florida, between it and South Carolina. Well, who's going to want to develop a colony there when they've got to worry about facing the Indians?
Right.
So what he did was offer the debtors in debtors' prison freedom if they would come and settle here. So I always used to tease anybody from Georgia that your colony, your ancestors were all convicts or prisoners. But that's a true story. That's
Right.
That's how they settled the Georgia colony.
Fascinating.
So debtor's prison, you're correct, was a common practice. Even here at the state hospital, many people there were not mentally ill. They were just indigent or poor or had no place to go. Even children, orphans, were sometimes incarcerated that way.
From an 1857 investigation, the Oneida County Home is located near the village of Rome. The building has been occupied as a poorhouse since 1829. Connected is a farm of 115 acres, of which about 70 are under cultivation. This house is heated by a furnace. The present number of inmates is 150 males, and females being about equally divided. The average number for the past year is 222. 37 deaths have occurred. At least 3/4 of all received are foreigners. During all seasons, the able-bodied men among the paupers are employed upon the farm. The sexes are kept separate. A physician is employed by the year to attend the sick and frequently visits the house. It is supplied with Bibles, and the inmates have the benefit of religious instruction. For the children, an instructor is employed by the year. There is, on the grounds, a pest house located about 100 rods from the main building. No contagious disease has visited the house during the present year. The inmates sleep in dormitories. The largest room accommodates 44 persons. There are here 4 blind, 2 male and 2 female, and 3 idiots. 31 of the inmates are lunatics, 20 males and 11 females. For their accommodation has been erected an asylum building, in which the sexes are separately confined with separate yards attached. A large share of these lunatics have heretofore been inmates of the state institution and returned as incurable. The keeper reports that one of the cases, a woman has recovered her reason and been discharged from the house. There are confined in rooms and restrained by chains when boisterous. The son of the keeper has charge of the insane, assisted by a female who is herself occasionally deranged. The house is inspected each year by a committee appointed from the Board of Supervisors of the county. Exclusive of farm products, the cost of support of paupers has been for the last year about $1 per capita. Excerpt from an 1857 investigation housed at poorhousehistory.com/Oneida.
So if you had passed away at the Old Oneida County Home, you wouldn't get an actual gravestone. You get a pylon with a marker. This one is 3, and that's how your gravesite is marked, by nothing more than a number. Well, Phil, we found it, the cemetery, a very significant part of Oneida County's history, and now along the new Mohawk River Trail in Rome. So hundreds, thousands of people have the chance to pass by this. I wonder if they know its significance.
I mean, these are graves dating from like the early 1900s until the latest we found was 1931. So even in the 30s, the debtor's prison, the
Poorhouse.
Oneida County Poorhouse was still in action.
And marked only by a simple stone with a number. That's their legacy, and the legacy of the Oneida County Poorhouse. If you enjoy this episode of the Haunts and Legends of New York, give us a like and subscribe.
Hit the comments below to let us know where else we should go.